Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Upper Room Community Podcast, where you're here to be elevated in mindset, habit, and spirit. I am your host, Raquel Sade, and welcome back. I'm very grateful to be here once again, and shout out to the fourth quarter of the year. We made it, y'all. Clap it up for yourselves because you made it. You're here. You're alive. You have another opportunity, and just be grateful for the opportunities that are ahead and what is to come, because great things, and I'm expecting great things to happen during this fourth quarter. Today's topic is about figuring out if we are the product of our consumption. I know when we think about the word consumption, we think about food, and that is definitely going to be a topic that's going to be brought up today. But consumption isn't just about food, but it's also about what you're taking in from your environment, what you're taking in media, what you're taking in conversations, in food, of course, and just in multiple areas of your life, what you're consuming, what you're taking in, what you're being surrounded with, and figuring out if you are a product of those things. It's a very important topic to discuss, especially if we are about community building and about building up others besides ourselves. This is something that needs to be addressed and needs to be evaluated so that we can see what influences us, what promotes certain behaviors in our lives, certain outcomes in our lives, and how we can manipulate that for the best and make that work in our favor. So the technical definition of consume obviously means to eat, drink, or ingest a food or drink. And the second definition is to buy in terms of goods or services. And the last one is to use up a resource. It doesn't just mean to eat, it doesn't just mean to drink, but it also means to buy, and it also means to use or take from. The top three things that we actually spend our most time consuming is: one, food, of course, entertainment and media, and leisure time. And these three top things that we consume does not include work and sleep, of course, because those are the main ones that take up our time. Sleep, of course, we get about 8 hours of sleep in a 24-hour day, and we work for about just as much as that time, 7 to 8 hours. Some people work 12-hour shifts. So not including working and sleeping, the top three things that we take our time consuming is food, entertainment and media, and what we do in our leisure time, what we do for our free time and our hobbies, etc. These top three things that we consume, our food, our media, and our leisure time, are very important because they actually play a big role in our sleep and our work. If we choose to live better lifestyles and choose to be more intentional in terms of what we're spending our time on, what we're actually consuming in terms of food, and what we're ingesting through the eyes and the ear gates pertaining to media and the news and social media and stuff like that, that can actually affect our sleep, and that can affect our health. That could also affect our work. Because the more intentional you get with your leisure time, the more intentional you are with what you are taking in terms of media. Those two things can actually help you advance in areas pertaining to work, and eating and what you're consuming on a daily basis for breakfast, lunch, and dinner can help factor in how much you sleep, how little you sleep, and all of those things tied together to create a life for you that can either be good or either be bad, can be beneficial or can be harmful to your health and to your overall quality of life. One thing plays into the other. Like, where you work plays into how much you sleep. How much you sleep can determine or play a role in where you work and how much you work. And all those things tie together. So it is important to look at each one of those categories and how that is playing a role in the trajectory of our lives. And if you've been watching my podcast by now, you know I got to throw a little scripture in there that actually validates what it is that I'm talking about, because the Bible is not a book of religion, but it's a basic instruction before leaving earth. Bible, basic instruction before leaving earth. It's a book that can teach you how to live your life with the highest quality possible. If you follow everything there is to know in the Bible, if you follow everything that there is to follow in the Bible, you will live your life to the fullest that you can ever possibly live your life. And I guarantee you for that. Put it to work. Like, some people don't believe in the Bible. Some people don't believe in the content that is in the Bible. But I just, I challenge those people that, question the value of the Bible, question the truth behind the Bible, and I say put it to the test. And it's funny because it actually says that in Malachi 3 to put God to the test and watch him work in your life. But that just came up in my head as I said that. But put it to the test. Like, take those rules or take those steps of guidance and put it to the test in your life and see how much your life will change. It's crazy. And this is kind of off topic, but it also says that in the book of Joshua, it says to be sure to do according to all is written, meditate on the word day and night, and be sure to do all that is written in it, and you will make your way prosperous. God won't do it for you, but if you actually take the time out to read the word, meditate on it, ponder on it, digest it, and act it out in your life will be a product of that, and it will be very prosperous. But back to the topic about consumption, Proverbs 23 verse 20 in the English Standard Version, it says to be not among drunkards or among gluttonous eaters of meat, for the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and slumber will clothe them with rags. One thing I find very funny about that verse is anybody who eats meat. Now, I'm eating meat. Okay, I'm eating meat for the rest of my life. But those of y'all who eat meat, when you eat a lot of meat, like, you get drowsy, you get tired after that meal. And what we call it, we got the itis, air quote, the itis. And it's actually funny because this is another thing that's a little bit off topic, but I'm just dropping these little things that I've learned and I'm telling y'all about it, because what did we say in all the other ones? Every single word that we use in life plays a role. Our words are powerful. Our words have life in it. And so I'm very careful about what words I'm using, and I'm very careful about what is coming out of my mouth, because what comes out my mouth shapes my reality. So one day after I was eating, I was talking to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I got the itis. And she's like, you do not have the itis. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So what does the itis mean, Mom? So she's like, look it up. Because every time I ask my mom what something means, she tells me to look it up. So that's what I did. And you know what the itis means, y'all? Forming names of inflammatory diseases. And that actually makes sense, because when I saw that, I thought about in my head gingivitis. I'm like, wow, gingivitis, that's definitely a disease. Cystitis, that's also a disease, or inflammatory disease, a urinary tract infection. So like, our words are very powerful, because I'm not speaking no disease on my life or an onset of a disease. So I don't got the itis, y'all. So that's just a little gem for y'all. Just the next time, our people like to say, I got the itis, and maybe you'll think about it, and you'll think about this podcast like, Nah, bro, I actually don't have diabetes. But anyway, I found that Bible verse, Proverbs 23 verse 20, very funny because once people that eat meat, after you eat meat, if you eat a good amount of meat, you actually get very drowsy. And I noticed that because when I go out to eat for vegan food and I'm stuffed, I never get drowsy afterwards. And also, if you go out for a night of drinking and you had a little bit too much, you get a hangover, and then you're in bed all day, you're tired, you don't want to get out of bed, you're drowsy, you need to catch up on your sleep, and you wake up late. So I found it funny that in that verse says that your slumber will clothe you with rags. I think is that right? Yeah, slumber will clothe them with rags. So I found it very funny that King Solomon decided to say that, because if you drink too much and if you eat way too much, way more than you're supposed to, specifically with meat, you'll get drowsy and your slumber will clothe you with rags. Why? Because if you're continuously doing that over and over and over again, your life is just not going to be productive at all. So I found that funny. And that brings me to my point, because people who are consumed with feeding their appetite are on a very dangerous path. And that actually can make you, or does make you, a slave to your desires. And that's never a good place to be in. That's never a place that you want to be in, being a slave to your desires, where your desires come first in terms of your appetite. Your appetite comes first, and you gotta do what you gotta do and able to fix that appetite. And that can bring you into some very dangerous situations, people who are consumed with the love of money. The Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil. People also get that wrong too. People say this all the time, oh, money is the root of all evil. But no, it's not money which is the root. It's the love of money. It's the greed that is behind the money. Your money consumes your mind on a daily basis. All you do is think about your next fix on how you can get money. And that also ties into drunkenness, and that also ties into being a glutton, because you are consumed with that thing. You love it, you greed for it, and that can send you down a very dangerous path, because you will do anything and everything you can in order to get that fix. And that is a negative consumption, and that needs to be fixed and adapted, because that will bring you into some very dangerous places in life. There's a lot of people who turn evil just from having that dangerous love of money, because if you love something, you're willing to do anything to keep it. You're willing to do anything to obtain it. And we can't have love the material things, because the material things fade, the material things go away, they are not eternal. So loving food to the point where you're gonna eat your life away, loving sleep to the point where you sleep your life away, loving liquor to the point where you're drinking every single day or 4 days out of the week, and making that a hobby, that will affect the value, that will affect the value of your life. That will affect the quality of your life in the long run. And we gotta nip that in the bud, y'all, because that is no place where you want to be ever. Once you learn how to combat your appetite and force it under submission to what is greater, you will eventually be able to change your appetite and help it actually work in your favor, because being controlled by your appetite, being controlled by the things that you are consuming, especially if they're negative, that will never work in your favor. And that's just continuing to send you down on a very dangerous path that you do not want to be on. And the sneaky part about these things is that they start off so slow. They start off so discreet. Like, there's a lot of things that, like going on my phone, for an example. And I'm sure this happens to a lot of us, but you pick up your phone to do one specific thing. Like, all right, let me pick up my phone to go and look at this Bible verse, right? I pick up my phone, I get distracted. Then I just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Last thing I know, like 20 minutes later, I catch myself still on my phone. Or like, let's say I'm downstairs, and that's another thing. I'll be downstairs in the kitchen on my phone, looking. And I look and I'm like, oh no, I just wasted a whole half hour on my phone. And I know I'm definitely supposed to be doing something right now. Like, it's very, it starts off small, and our intention, that's why it's dangerous, and you have to catch these things as soon as it starts, as soon as the little seed is planted, because you don't intend on becoming a drunk, or you don't intend on wasting your life away sleeping. You don't intend on wasting your life away going out after work for happy hour when you could be advancing your life for those 3-4 hours that you're actually out. Like, you don't intend on doing those things. But once you start something and you're not being intentional, it's very easy to make those things a habit and a pattern in your life. Your brain is built to pick up patterns. It's literally made to make new patterns. So if you're constantly doing something, it's going to make a pattern in your brain like that. And then it's over from there. Like, you're just going to be stuck in that perpetual cycle of doing that same thing over and over and over. And you find yourself months down the line realizing how much time you wasted being consumed with that one thing. And it's just not a place you want to be. And I'm sure we've all, made that mistake of wasting our time doing things that we could have been more productive doing something else. But it's about attacking those things and never getting too comfortable in these situations, because you will get stuck. And once you get stuck, it's pretty hard to get out. So it's just easier nipping in the bud from the beginning before it gets out of control. How you spend your time determines how you live your life in totality. The biggest factor that's being consumed in your life is time. So your quality of time can be improved by being more intentional with your time, and also choosing to prioritize your health so that you can have even more time and more quality of life, because we can't neglect our health either. Like, getting to the bag is important, becoming successful is important, but all of that success isn't worth it if your health is plummeting, and you're drowning in unhealthy habits. So speaking about health and your quality of time, I did some research to look at the average consumer expenditure in the United States in the year 2022. And some of the results weren't that surprising, but I picked out the 4 top ones that really stood out to me. So when speaking about apparel for whites and others, their total is $1,859. For Asians, it's $2,337, and for blacks, it's $2,310. Now, that number is surprising to me. One, I'm not surprised about the Asians, because I know, being from New York, every time I go out, every time I go to the city, them Asians be fly. They're always fly. They're always in some nice clothes, and they be putting it on. So I wasn't surprised about that number. But for black people, I was very surprised about that number. Well, I wasn't surprised. What am I talking about? I wasn't surprised about that number because I do feel like sometimes we have bad spending habits and we prioritize the wrong things. We prioritize looking good, and this is not every black person, but a lot of us, especially in the hood, because we gotta represent, but especially in the hood, we prioritize looking good and everything else being shambles. But as long as we look good, though, that's all that matters. that's the mindset that I tend to see a lot amongst Black people, a certain demographic of Black people. And that brings me back to the pandemic. When the pandemic first started in 2020 and 2021, I cannot forget, I went to Philadelphia for the weekend, and we were passing by, like, this is when Lord and Taylor was still open, and Neiman Marcus. Those lines were wrapped around the corner, and these are department stores, like, they're huge parking lots wrapped around the corner. And you know who were on those lines? Black people. Black people were on those lines. I did not see a diversity of people on those lines. I literally saw, like, that time, I kid you not, I saw 100% of people on that line was Black. And I saw this multiple times for a good amount of months. Went to the mall, the Gucci store, the Hermes store. The lines were long, full of Black people. In the malls, I would see Black and brown people, Blacks and Hispanics, but it was majority of Black people. And that's where this topic of consumption is so important, because we need to target the importance of where we are putting our money, where we are spending our money, and what our money is going towards. For another, the next topic is tobacco and smoking supplies. So for whites and others, it was 386. Asians, it was 162. And for Blacks, it was 371. Am I surprised about that? No. Because it's not just tobacco, it's tobacco and smoking supplies. And you already know, especially being in NYC, everybody and their mother is smoking weed. I wish I could insert some crickets right here. But yeah, everybody and their mother is smoking weed. And you know, there was a recent study that came out saying that New York City, not New York State, New York City are amongst the highest consumers of marijuana and marijuana products. Like, and that plays a part in slumber. Let's put that out there. Smoking weed plays a huge part in being tired. And it kind of goes hand in hand. And if you abuse it, of course, like, you're just going to be tired all day. But anyway, like, that is something we need to attack as well, because people spend so much money a day on smoking weed, especially if you got the exotic. Y'all spending money on weed, okay? Too much money on weed. And that needs to be discussed and attacked as well, because we can be putting our dollars into something more effective. One, especially because majority of the people out there buying the weed are buying it from illegal dealers, and that's not putting any money back into the community. Number one. Number two, that's not really affecting the growth of the community, because that's playing into addiction and that's playing into dependency on a substance. That's just not helping the community grow and thrive in areas that it needs to be. So we need to see where our dollars are going and how we can change that around to be more effective in our communities, not just for Black people, but for especially targeting low income areas. We need to figure out how we can collect and bring our dollars together and put it towards something effective and beneficial for not just ourselves, but our communities as well. And the last two were not surprising, but something that needs to be improved on as well. For reading, whites and others, 124, Asians, 108, and Blacks, 74. And education, whites and others, 1,330, Asians, 2,880, and Blacks, 712. Now, education, I'm not surprised that Black people are at the 700 mark, because of course, if you're in a low income area, or if your income is not as high and your expenses are pretty much eating up 70% of your income, then of course, spending money on education isn't going to be the top priority, which is my personal stance on it. I don't feel like, especially as a child, education should necessarily have to be paid for. I just feel like we need to do better in what we're teaching our children, and that doesn't cost. It costs on a state level, like the state needs to give out more funding concerning those certain areas, but in terms of income in the household for primary education in schools, I don't really think it's a dire need to spend that much money on education in that way. But reading, if you're not spending money on education, you need to be spending money on books, because reading is fundamental and plays a big part in educating yourself. You can learn a lot from reading books, and we need to become more literate as a people. I'm still, working on that myself. I'm not the most literate person in the world, and I always realize that when I talk to one of my friends, because he's super literate, and those words be hitting, and it be making me think like, wow, okay, I really need to start. I read, but I'm like, I need to pick up my reading way more than I'm doing now, because that man is smart. But anywho, reading is so important for our children, and not only just for becoming more literate, but it helps expand their imagination. It gives them more ideas, and it helps them see far past where they are, especially being in a low income area. If your children are reading more, that will help build up their imagination so that they can see themselves somewhere far than where they are now. That plays a big part in your imagination, and being able to not limit yourself to this box that you see yourself in, but to see yourself in so many areas that you haven't even touched yet, because your imagination is expanded on. So again, it's just about targeting and evaluating where our money is being spent, so that we can be more effective on where we're putting our money towards, and what exactly we're using our money to consume. Because again, consumption plays a huge part in the value and the quality of your life, and how you're going to live the rest of your life. America is primarily ran by a consumer-based economy, with personal consumption making up more than 70% of the GDP. So it's important, and it's about time that we learn the value, how valuable our dollars are, and how valuable our buying power is, and how that affects the growth or the decline of our communities, in every community. And one great example of that is, of course, in our stores. Two places I know of, like Costco and Walmart, are two companies that actually spend time in evaluating what their buyers are consuming, what their buyers are spending their dollar on. Because why? The consumer has the buying power, and once they see a specific trend, like that people are buying this certain item, or gravitating towards this item, and kind of neglecting this item, they actually change what it is that they're selling. And one example of that is with healthy food. Once they saw the trend that people were actually moving away from dairy and gravitating towards more plant-based milks and plant-based foods, what did they do? They added more plant-based foods for the buyer, because the buyer has the buying power. So once we learn, and I think we've heard this time and time again, but it's actually about implementing it. But we can only implement that once we personally face what it is that we're consuming. Once we personally look within ourselves and see what we're spending our money on, what is consuming the majority of our time, and once we're able to change that for the better and actually help other people change that, that will affect what is around us. But we have to learn the value in our dollars. We have to learn the value that is backed in what we're consuming, what we're spending our time consuming, and what we're just taking in on a daily basis. And these companies look at what we're consuming. The music industry looks at what we're consuming. The entertainment industry, the news, they know what sells. These TV shows, like, they know what sells because they're looking at what we're spending most of our time on. Like in the music industry, for an example, the Sexy Reds, the City Girls, Beyonce, like especially Beyonce, you know, she got the twerk it like a thotty, twerk it like a thotty. She's married. Single ladies, she's married. You know, she likes to push out certain music that targets a certain demographic of people because they know what sells. It's marketing. It's all about marketing. Sex sells in the music industry. So why majority of our female artists, in terms of rappers and even some, you know, neo soul R&B artists, are being more promiscuous? Because they know what sells. So if we were to take the self-control and actually be conscious about what it is we're listening to, what we're promoting, what we're watching, and sex no longer sold because people were changing what it is that they're actually consuming on a day-to-day, guess what? Our music would have to change. Our artists would have to change what they talk about, how they present themselves. They would have to change their whole persona based off of what is selling. It's that simple, guys. It's really that simple. Like, changing what we consume has enough power to shake industries. It has enough power to shake every industry that plays a big part in the value and the quality of our lives. From music to the news to the food industry. Like, once we learn the power that we have in what it is that we're taking in on a daily basis, we, the people, the consumers, have the power to shape these industries and these systems that are play a big role in what we are consuming on a day-to-day. Like, how powerful is that? To really sit there and think about me and my community and those that I know, those around me. We have the power to shake industries. We have the power to dismantle evil systems, like I talked about in my last episode. We have the power to do these things, but we have to tap into that self-control and tap into the truth. Like, a lot of people know the truth, but again, they are slaves to their own desires. Like these shows, Baddies, Jocelyn's Cabaret, like, why are these shows available? Because people are consuming it. People are entertained by these things. People are being a slave to their desires by consuming things that they know should be something that is not promoted and does not benefit your community, does not benefit Black women and Spanish women, Latino or Latinas. It does not benefit our people at all, and in fact diminishes us and diminishes our value. But it's, again, being a slave to your desire. Like, what do you desire more? That satisfaction and that feeling that you're getting from watching this entertainment, or actually bettering the quality of what you're spending your time doing and actually helping to build up the look and build up the quality of our women on a bigger scale, on a broader scale. Like, if people changed what it is that they're entertained by and changed what they're consumed with, those shows would be put out of business. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, it really is the truth. Like, it really is the truth. And It's something that I noticed, and it's just something that I feel like God been putting on my heart for me to discuss, because we need to do better, and we need to really attack this consumption thing. We cannot be controlled by our flesh. We cannot be controlled by our immediate desires, because a lot of the desires that we have are not good for us. There's a lot of things that we desire on a day-to-day basis that is not healthy for us, and is not healthy for the people around us. But it's about making a decision to no longer be a slave to your desires. Put your desires under subjection to you, because you have power over your desires. And then over time, as you stay disciplined and you stay consistent, your desires will change, and you will learn to desire the things that are greater for you. One thing I can speak about is like when I was more intentional about changing my environment in terms of what I'm listening to and what's getting put into my spirit, what's getting fed into my soul. And a big part of that was hip hop. Like, I love hip hop. There's a lot of, old school artists. They're not considered old school because we're in 2023, but I love 90s hip hop, late 90s hip hop. I love artists. Like, I love Wu-Tang. I love Mobb Deep. I love Nas. Those were my people. You get what I'm saying? And especially now with hip hop, like, I was definitely jacking the Kendrick Lamar's and J. Cole's. Who else was I jacking? Drake was never really, he puts out hits, but Drake was never really my guy for real. But I listened to some Drake, of course. Who didn't, or who doesn't? But yeah, I loved hip hop and secular music, but I felt my spirit was getting real grieved by the content, like, of what was being really spoken about in some of the music. Now, I'm not one of those people that's about to say all secular music is bad, because I'm not that kind of person that believes that. But we have to be alert on the content that's being spoken about in the music, and the spirit behind the person that's also speaking and making this music as well. Because again, like I said in the beginning of the video, that words are alive. Words have spirit behind it. So I used to listen to hip hop a lot. And can I tell you the last time I actually, on my own personal phone, took the time out to really listen to some hip hop? I cannot tell you. So and that played a role in my consumption, like on what I was consuming. And that, I feel better. I feel good. I just made a decision to change what was being fed to me, and I feel the benefits of it. And I encourage you guys to put it to the test. Again, like, try it out for yourself. Take time away from listening to certain music that has certain words in it that are vulgar, or has certain words in it. Like, I never liked the music that spoke down on women and talked about like vulgar sex and stuff like that. I've never been that kind of person. But sometimes they throw a line or two in those things. But I encourage you, like, take the time out, cut out the Sexy Red, cut out the Cardi B, cut out the City Girls, cut out the Nicki. I'm not gonna lie, not that Nicki is as bad as them, but the whole competition thing and speaking down on other women, cut it out. Like, try it, put it to the test, and see how much your spirit will thrive. I promise you, it will thrive. Especially if you have a cursing problem. Like, if you have a problem where you cannot stop cursing, it might be because of what you're consuming in your spirit. If you're listening to certain music where it's F after F, S after S, all kinds of curses after curses, it will be hard, because out of abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. That's what the Bible says. Out of abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So what you're consuming your spirit with is what will come out of your mouth. So, and it also says, as a man thinketh, so is he. Like, what you think is what you become. So I encourage you, put it to the test and see how it works in your life, and I guarantee you, you will see benefits. And of course, another thing that plays a big role in our consumption and how that affects the value of our lives is food. And one big problem that we have with food is food scarcity in low income areas. A lot of low income places, low income neighborhoods suffer from being in a food desert. And let me just read to y'all what a food desert is. A food desert is an urban area in which it is difficult to buy affordable or good quality fresh food. The issue is that there's plenty of food in the neighborhoods, but majority of that food promotes disease and bad health. And one example of that is a lot of supermarkets have been switched out and changed for dollar stores. And that happens in my hood, Mount Vernon, New York. I'm from Mount Vernon, if you didn't know. But we had like a Caribbean food market on, what was that, Fulton? Yeah, we had a Caribbean food market on Fulton Ave, and it got switched out for, was that not a Dollar General, one of them dollar stores. One of them dollar stores. And that one promotes more loss in jobs, because if you go into a dollar store, it only be like 3 people working there, 4 people working there versus a whole supermarket. So there's loss in jobs, loss in qualities of food, and there are no longer any local supermarkets. There's no longer any money that's really getting fed in the community. And a lot of these dollar stores are not a local franchise or not a local store that can actually help benefit the community, but the money is getting sucked into these big companies. And that's not good for the community in itself, and it's not good for the residents that are there. One thing that definitely needs to be attacked is food scarcity and the price of our food. Of course, the reason why a lot of these stores are around, like these fast food stores, is because a lot of people with low income cannot afford good quality food, vegetables and things of that nature, vegetables and fruits, because they're expensive. So a lot of people that actually go grocery shopping, people with low income tend to have less fruits and less vegetables in their house, versus people that have more of a higher income that are able to afford some fruits and vegetables because of the prices of these things. And that's definitely something in life that I definitely plan on solving on a mass scale. And I can't really get into that because I don't want y'all saying my ideas. No, I'm just kidding. But you gotta let the ideas grow, let the businesses grow before you put it out. But that is definitely something that I plan on being a solution to. And we just have to provide solutions for the people in our communities and low income areas, because they deserve just as much as a quality life as the rest of the United States citizens and as the rest of every nation that there is in the world. And that brings me to a topic pertaining to our neighborhood and what's in it, what it's consumed with. Because, there's a lot of liquor stores, there's a lot of junk food, there's a lot of Chinese food stores, a lot of things that aren't really beneficial to our communities. And that starts with our consumption, because once again, we have the buying power. We have our dollars matter, and our dollars play a big part in what's getting pumped into our communities. And if we learn how, once again, to change what it is that we are consuming and have the discipline to actually change that in ourselves, then we will play a huge role in things getting shut down and being pushed out of our neighborhoods, like liquor stores. If people have the mindset and learn to put those desires under submission and no longer partake in those things, then the liquor stores, these people that own the liquor stores who don't even live in the community, won't have any funds to keep that store open. And what will they do? Close down and move out. These junk food stores, Chinese food stores, once people stop consuming these things, and the food scarcity and the food supermarket desert issue is actually targeted, and there's a solution behind it, and food scarcity, healthy food scarcity, is no longer an issue. We can stop consuming the junk food and consuming the food that promotes disease in our neighborhoods and in our families. Then they won't have any money to stay there. They will be pushed out as well. So it's just about learning the power in consuming the right things. And I promise, life will be so much better for everybody around us. I highly encourage you guys to send this video out, share it with whoever you can share it with, share it on your stories on Instagram or on Facebook, share it with your enemy, share it with whoever you've spoken to in the last week, those you care about. Share it to anybody, share it to everybody, because everybody needs to hear this message. And once we're able to spread it out and help promote growth in our mindset and promote growth in habit and in spirit, we will all be benefited from what such a great thing this can do in all around every area. So make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to discuss, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Peace and love.